Thanks to all of you.
Hello.
For the film and for being here.
Hello, guy.
Should we start with? Maybe I'll start with Brady and Mona. It's a big film. It's an expansive film that clearly has a lot on its mind. Architecture, brutalism, immigrant experience, the relationship between artists and patrons. You could go on and on. So I'm just wondering what the initial spark was for you, or did it emerge relatively fully formed when you were writing?
We'd had a very bad experience making another film, and this was sort of an exorcism to write this movie. That's the first thing. But the second thing is that we both come from architecture families. My uncle, who I lived with when I was young in Arizona, studied at Taliesin West, and Mona's grandfather was an architect, a mid-century designer. And so we were talking a lot about the parallels between architecture and making a movie. It requires a sort of same amount of support and infrastructure to build a building as it does to make a film. So I think that was the initial seed of the idea.
Yeah, I think, as Brady said, it started with this need to have sort of an exorcism of the previous project. And then, as Brady said, my grandfather was an architect in post-war Norway, rebuilding the country after it was bombed to pieces. And so, the story is very different from ours, but still there's a lot of parallels and things that we were excited to start diving into and exploring.
Why brutalist architecture specifically?
I think, we were talking about this earlier, but I think that brutalism's commitment to minimalism and maximalism is something that we really identify with in terms of our ambitions for our films. We really like extreme quiet and extreme cacophony in equal measure. And I love anything where your feelings as a spectator remain, unresolved in perpetuity. Like, I think that, that there are too many films, there's too much architecture, which sort of arrives at a foregone conclusion, and it doesn't continue to sort of evolve in your mental space. And so I love that brutalist architecture is something that is quite confrontational in a way, but there's so much there's so much grace and elegance and room for interpretation.
I'm going to ask you just one more question before I bring in the other collaborators. You shot the film in VistaVision. Maybe you could say a little bit about what that format is. It was invented in the 50s, I believe,
That's right.
And hasn't been used in 50 years or so.
Yeah, the film...
It's never been used in the capacity in which Brady is using it. We shot intimate close-ups with this whirring, massive magazine, side-mounted magazine. It's amazing.
So VistaVision was engineered in the 1950s. It seemed sensible to, in an effort to access the period, to employ, a technique that was developed during the period. And the thing is, there's a lot of confusion about what VistaVision is and what the difference is between 35 millimeter print and a 70 millimeter print. Essentially, 35 millimeter traditionally runs through the gate with either 2 perforations, 3 perforations, or 4 perforations of neg area vertically. And VistaVision captures everything horizontally, so you're using the length of the film strip to capture more information. So this film was shot on 35 millimeter, but it was shot 8 perf 35. Therefore, the 70 millimeter print it's not a blow up per se. There are certain images because we shot certain things on 16 millimeter. The end of the movie shot on digibeta, but where a blow up is applicable to its description. But by and large, the 70 millimeter print is the movie, and every other copy you see of it is an excellent rendition or copy of the film. So what you've seen today it's very close to what it actually looks like. But if you really want to see everything that's there, the 70 millimeter print is more accurate.
So you come back on the 11th of October.
Yes, we are showing it again here on 35 millimeter, but we couldn't do 70 in this hall, so we're doing it in the Walter Reed three times.
And Walter Reed is also just amazing. It's one of my favorite theaters in New York. It sounds and looks perfect, which is a way that you can if you've mixed a film and you know exactly what's there, but it's really it's an incredible theater. So, I mean, I know you guys will all be seeing a lot of movies there, and you can rest assured that it looks and sounds how it should.
I wanted, maybe the actress could jump in here. I was curious, Adrien, you already sort of touched on this. It was what it was like to be working with this kind of technology, machinery, with these cameras, since most films are shot digitally.
Well, it's remarkable, and you can all attest to the depth of field, even in the beautiful image, which I love. It's just so telling. Standing in front of that bus, and there's another one similarly from there, and you see it's very painterly and very photographic of another time. And I think so much of what this movie feels like really does, and it's due to crafting it with such attention to detail. It feels like a movie of another time, characters from another time, and architecture that's endured from this time. And I found it fascinating because I was kidding, but it is a remarkable thing. And they were pretty much using these giant mags and shooting VistaVision as handheld. And these would be things for Gone with the Wind, or just massive, epic things, like shooting the Marble Quarry is epic, but they're using that same configuration, and poor Lowell, our DP, is kind of in the room holding this thing. And when you're acting with that in an intimate scene, it's something. It's like the mechanical aspect of that is very present, but it's kind of beautiful. It's like it's a step beyond of films are now being made digitally and made to look like film. This is a step towards more of a real kind of structural thing, which felt very attuned to what I was immersing myself in.
Do any of the other actors like to weigh in or add to what Adrien was saying?
Yeah, I feel like there was just a level of respect when you're working with film, because you know that you can't keep shooting. This stuff's expensive, and we're on a tight budget, and I just think you're acutely aware of that. So it's not like film where you can kind of do it again. I just think there's just
hard drives are expensive too.
I don't really.
I want to put that out there. They're also expensive.
There's just a bit more respect, I think.
But you don't have a mag you can get big SIM cards these days. Whatever they are, SD cards, but
It's burnt onto celluloid forever.
That's right.
No, I agree. It gives more value to what you're doing because it feels somehow more precious. Yeah. It doesn't feel like you can just keep going and going for hours and hours. In that moment when it's action, you do feel like you've got to perform in that moment, and everyone does, cast, crew, everyone has to give their best because it's not limitless and it costs a fortune.
Yeah, it was like Ozu, the filmmaker, used to say, only one take. You don't have another chance. Mm-hmm. So on Brady's movie, it felt a little bit like that, especially when we knew that before getting to Budapest, they spent a lot of money somewhere else trying to make the movie start. And yeah, we all have a responsibility to just give it at first take.
I wanted to bring in your production designer, Judy.
Judy Becker.
Obviously, a historical film, a period film, but also a film about architecture. So I think your role in this process must have been critical.
I would think so. I was thinking of wearing a T-shirt that said "I am László Toth," but and maybe I will at some point. But yeah, I had
make me one too?
I designed everything. We could have like different versions of it. No, I'm László Toth.
I am.
To tell the truth. I designed everything. I had a crew, but it would all came from my department. Everything that László designed was the work of the art department, except we did shoot in some locations, so not counting that. And I started by when I first got the job, which was a while before we actually shot it. I started by designing the building and the Institute. And even though I knew we would never build that building, it had to be designed in a way that made sense for the movie and for how it's described in the movie. And it was a very, and I think that when I design, I really try to inhabit the characters, and in this case, even more so. And I thought very, very specifically about what would have inspired László and what he would have been thinking at this time in history after he's come out of a camp, and how that would have influenced his design of the building. So it was a really organic process for me. And I used things from my own history. I studied a lot of images and architecture of the concentration camps, which was a really hard thing to look at and think about for so long. And so that was a sort of organically incorporating everything that was scripted and everything that the building needed to say about László's experience and about the building he was trying to create. And the same thing for the furniture, and that László designs me. And
Okay, you get the T-shirt. You get the T-shirt. Brady should have one too, by the way, because he's the real László Toth.
Yes, I know. We should all have them.
Insurmountable challenge of making this movie is like mirrors.
Totally true. Yeah. And I do love brutalist architecture. I have for decades. So, and it's my actual. I'm going on, but I love that it is forward-looking, and I think that was really important after the Second World War, and in art, also in painting and architecture. So I think art needs to move forward and not look back, and I think the Brutalist is a really great example of that. But that's one of the things I love about Brutalist.
And Daniel, wanted to bring you in as well. Music has always been important in your work, Brady. Your other films were scored by Scott Walker, to whom this film is dedicated. And so Daniel had pretty big shoes to fill in this case. And I'm also thinking about what you just said about brutalism being defined simultaneously by minimalism and maximalism. And I feel like that's a quality that the score is playing with as well. Daniel, do you want to talk about your discussions with Brady about how music would function in the film?
I mean, we started from the script when and I ended up staying with Brady. Like, we were kind of living together when he was shooting the film, and we've been friends for around 10 years, talking about music, and we have share a lot of in common. And Brady brought me to Scott's sessions for his first film, which kind of introduced me to scoring before I did Mona's film. But yeah, this discussion sort of happened from when we met, and then I guess this feels like a result of that friendship in a way, in many ways. But yeah, I'm sure Brady can talk about it as well.
No, that's exactly right.
Do you want to say a bit about your working with Daniel and Judy?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is that, you know, I grew up making movies all my life, and I know better than anyone that, like, you know, there is no such thing as like a maestro. Like, it's just bullshit. It's a collaborative medium. It requires hundreds of you know, thousands of sleepless nights for hundreds of people to come together to make something like this possible, especially on a budget that, you know, comparative to what the film, you know, really is, it was truly shoestring. So, you know, the thing is that, of course, it's an organic process. You gravitate toward, I mean, everyone we work with, they're very close friends of ours. They're a part of the fabric of our lives, not just our work. And because I have to work with people that I respect. Like, I refuse to work with people I don't respect. I really do. Like, life is too short and life is hard enough as it is. And like, I just need to like work with cast and crew that, like, you know, really are dialed in and understand the film. And the thing is, on this movie, everyone was moving in the same direction. And I think that, you know, it was just fantastic to not have a cast and crew that just are, you know, doing what you say, but are interpreting it in their own meaningful way and are like truly additive. And you know, during COVID, I think it was very clear that, like, there were, like, I don't know, maybe there's an exception to the rule that you guys know about, but like, I didn't see any good COVID movies. And like, and so it really dawned on me that, like, you know, this is not something that you can do by yourself in your bedroom. Like, it's not painting a painting, it's not writing a song and recording it. And so I really just, for me, you know, everyone is really significant. And something, part of the reason that we sort of have a company of actors like Stacy and Rafi and people that we've worked with over and over again is because, for me, there's no such thing as a small part. There's like only small movies. And like, I liked having a company of people that I can work with that, you know, make every single scene meaningful. And what's so great is that, like, everyone here, anyone that's willing to have me again, you know, I want all of them to come back and we'll make more movies together. And this is a way that it functioned for a lot of people. Bergman and Altman and, you know, you name it. So I just really appreciate, of course, Daniel's contribution so much. I think it's a huge work, but I feel that way about Judy's work. I feel that way about Lowell's work, David Yanksho, our editor. You know, everyone here has their fingerprints on this.
We only have a couple of minutes left, but I want to just turn it back to the actors, maybe, because it really is, among other things, an incredible ensemble movie. And I'd just love to hear maybe from some of you about how you approached your roles, and maybe we can start with Adrien and Felicity. I mean, just the challenges of speaking Hungarian and working with accents and all of that. And if either of you want to take it. And Adrien, I'm also curious if you thought about this role at all in relation with your role in The Pianist. A very different film, different character, but obviously also a Holocaust survivor in that case.
Yeah, that's a wonderful question. Which would you like me to address first? Okay. Well, some of you may know, but may know my mother, Sylvia Plahi. Anybody know who that is? She's here, so clap. Yeah. My mom is Sylvia Plahi, who when I meet certain people, they go, yeah, I know you, but your mom. And she is a remarkable photographer, artist, and New York photographer. But my mother and her parents, my grandparents, were Hungarian refugees who emigrated here in 56, fled Hungary, fled Budapest in 56 during the Hungarian Revolution, and struggled very much to assimilate and start again and become Americans as foreigners. And my grandmother, for instance, spoke 5 languages, and both her and my grandfather had wonderful jobs, and it was very challenging for them to work here. And this is the story of many people and many of our ancestors who've come to this country. And as it pertains to the pianist and my good fortune of having had a role like that, especially at a relatively young age, but to having had an opportunity like that, to be a part of something so meaningful and for it to have it be received by so many people and my industry is an achievement that is representative of something really great about America, which can be achieved. But I never took for granted the suffering and the journey that it took for my ancestors to finally be here, and for me to have the firm footing as a young American actor. And my life would have been very different had my mother not had to flee war and lose everything and start again. And I see, I'm sorry to take too much of your time, but I see her, her work has been a beacon for me in my work and my aspirations to find material like this and to work with filmmakers like Brady and Mona. And it's very, very much spoke beyond understanding the language and the dialect and the nuances within that from just growing up hearing my grandparents. There are other aspects that really felt very much a yearning and a parallel to overcoming suffering and the trauma of fleeing home and having endured war, and then how that as an artist informs your outlook moving forward. And so I've witnessed this from my mother, and so for me to you should just look up her work. It's phenomenal. And so I have a chance to honor that in this role, and I'm incredibly grateful for that. And as it pertains briefly to the pianist, it's almost like the thing I always say, the beauty about discovering becoming an actor is that there's always value in the unfortunate moments in your life or the lives of your loved ones or people you know or the people you've had the opportunity to put yourself in their shoes, and to understand all of that and to have a place for that. And that is the research and the understanding, and also accessing loss on my father's side of the family, who was Polish descent. There are parallels. It's a very different movie and a very different character, and they aren't interrelated. But working to understand that time in history and starvation and the loss also of artists being deprived of doing their work, like a pianist or an architect, then you see how fragile this world is and how we are being robbed of the beauty that should exist and continue to exist because of anti-Semitism, because of intolerance to others, because of being afraid of others. So all of it is baked into an interpretation in this character. Sorry for the long-winded spiel.
Thank you. I'm afraid we are out of time, but thank you for that answer, Adrien, and thank you for bringing up Sylvia as well. Thanks to all of you for this film. Congratulations. We're really happy.
Thank you. Thank you for coming.